All right, everybody. So it's only been a couple days since my last update video. However, I've gotten a lot of key critical things done on the interior here in the last couple days, and I thought I would catch you up before I start assembling stuff and it will not be obvious. So I got two primary things. One completed, and that is the DC electrical wiring, which I'll talk about. And then the probably the most obvious thing is I'm starting the installation. So let's get to the DC wiring and I'll tell you my plan for the installation in here. So just like 8.0, up in the passenger side rear, let's go back to wide angle here, down in this area, this is where the power bank will sit. So what I did is I've got the fuse right there, the fuse box or fuse block, whatever you want to call it there. And so that's my initial starting point for all the wiring. This right here is the solar wiring. Right now it's just wound up, but that comes in up there and it runs down that corner, and then the main path for all of the wiring comes down that wall, comes up over this. Now this permanent little loop over here, and this is not going to be well, it's not going to be permanent because there will obviously be a top on here, but I just got that to keep it nice and neat for now. And then it comes down and distributes into the fuse box. I was actually quite I don't know, we were talking last week about certain tasks that you like and certain tasks that you don't. I guess I'm a little strange. I actually really like wiring. I just think it's kind of fun. And this one turned out pretty neat, or pretty clean. Of course, most of it will be covered up. Well, all of the wiring will be covered up at some point. But anyways, that's why I'm showing you. So anyways, they come up there. All of them run up this path. The lights, so you guys will see I've got 6 overhead lights here. And these are going to all be on one circuit that's dimmable. But they come up here, they branch off here, and then each line parallels off to this side. Everything else loops around the top of here. So we've got one for the vent fan. Right there is the line going to the outside light. We've got one set of wires that comes down here and terminates into a cigarette lighter socket, which will be for the fridge down here. And everything else comes up over the top. What we have coming down here is the main line, and this will feed a light, which will be inside of the secretary desk in this corner here, and also a USB charging plug. And then tapped off of this, back over here, we have a light here that you can turn on. It has its own switch. So you can light up the area, which will be a big storage area when it's completed. Keep in mind that there will be doors across here, so that will not be open like that. Hence, that's why the light is there. One additional line is, if you guys recall from the initial conversation of this camper, I'm actually going to put a microwave, a small little microwave in here, and that's going to sit in a cabinet space up above the secretary desk. So what I took is just a heavy-duty extension cord. I cut off the end, and you can buy these ends that you can attach later. And I was able to feed that to the same hole that circles around, comes all the way down, shoots down there, and comes out as part of the main harness. And that will plug in right here. So it's a nice, clean install. The wire for this AC, I'll just run it straight down. I'll of course try to make it look nice and neat. So very simple. I guess there is an AC component, but primarily DC electrical system. Let's go take a look up at the panels on top. So where they come through the ceiling, they come through this little device here that makes sure it's nice and waterproof. And I've got these 300 watt panels just wired in series. So that's where they come through here. So obviously I'm not giving a detailed instruction on wiring. There's many other people out there that are really good at it. Not the only two, but two that I had learned a lot from is Will Prowse and Explorus Life. They both have a YouTube presence, but also websites and blogs and stuff like that. But just a couple things I'll mention about wiring is, number one, always fuse it, especially during the install, just for safety's sake. And there's wire size or wire gauge calculators that are easy to use, free online. And that's very important to make sure that you're using the proper wire size. And what you'll calculate is both the to and return distance. And they'll ask you things like, your expected amperage use and stuff like that. So just when you're sizing your wire, it's important to make sure that you're using large enough wire. And don't overfuse, meaning don't put too big of a fuse. Put one that's just the right size. That way, if there is a short someplace, excuse me, the fuse can actually do its job and it doesn't overload the circuit. All right, so what do we see here with all this insulation? So right now, this insulation is not permanently affixed in here. It's just kind of held in right now with a friction fit. But I went through and cut this all. So all of this is 1.5 inch thick EPS expanded polystyrene. It's probably one of the more common insulations I use. So what I'm going to do with these vertical walls over here is I will use a special glue and actually bond these insulating panels to that 1/4 inch ply that makes up the exterior, so it's one solid piece. I'll add a little bit of strength, kind of almost has a vapor barrier built in. And that's also part of why I sealed up that wood. And then on these vertical walls, at a later stage, I actually got 1/2 inch EPS. That I will wrap in the fabric. Obviously, trim it out to where it fits perfectly and slide that over the top of that. I've never done that in a camper before, but I'm going to try it, just having one single continuous wall that has a fabric. Usually I would, sand nice and clean these frame sections that are exposed, wrap each individual panel in fabric and insert it in. But just for something different, I'm going to try one continuous piece. One advantage of that is they call these a thermal bridge, sections where there's not any insulation. Though, as a side note, cedar actually is one of the more effective insulators among various wood species. But having that full EPS panel over it will help kind of mitigate some of the issues with thermal bridging. Up here on the ceiling, which is not done yet, you guys can see that I am putting in my thin slit. I'm just using 3M Super 90 spray adhesive. And this is going to be the ceiling, including the 45-degree angles that come down, is going to be, excuse me, is going to be a two-part insulation system. So the first stage is going to be this thin slit. And this is the first time I've done this. I'm trying this out in this specific way. And let me go grab a scrap piece of, well, actually, we'll just do this. We'll pull this off here. So, and then the second stage is, so following up with that angle there, all the way across and down with that angle there. In later stages, there'll be a thicker trim piece, just like I did in 8.0, that will attach across there. Each of these lights will attach that trim piece. And that trim piece will attach and hold the insulation above it in place. So what I will do is I'll take 2-inch pieces of EPS, and they'll be wrapped in fabric. Now, of course, this is just a mock-up here to show you guys. And these will fill that cavity, and when that trim piece is over, it will overhang a little bit and hold this in place. The same way that I did 8.0. And that will give me kind of 2 stages of insulation. Another advantage of, because this roof is curved, I had some concerns about bonding. Say, for example, I could do, like 4 inches total of EPS. But I would really like to bond it to the inside of the roof. But because it's kind of irregular because of the curves, I was afraid it might create some issues. But the thin slit is nice. Of course, it needs to have its own space to loft, but it gives you a little bit more compressibility in terms of adding in those panels in case there's some spaces that, there's some variance in height between the beam and the roof section there. So, but a lot of work done, a lot of work left in here. I will admit the electrical on this one went a lot quicker than usual. Maybe I'm just getting more experience in it, but I hope that made sense. I think in later stages, when I get more done, it'll make more sense, but I did want to show you guys now before I got too far along. So another thing I wanted to show you guys was I always incorporate some sort of running lights and brake lights in all of the camper builds, and usually I use individual lights. But what I did up in here, a friend of mine, Gary, gave me this idea. It's a little hard to see, but it's attached up in there. It's a LED light strip, and it just happened to be just the perfect length, and it runs up underneath that lip there. There you go, you can see a little better view of it there. And it comes all the way up in here, and then internally right here, the wires for that come through. They run all the way down here. They go through the bottom of that wing, and they exit right here and plug in a 4-pin plug-in for my, for a trailer plug-in. And this LED strip is perfectly built, or I say it's made specifically to have running lights, brake lights, and turn signals. And I tested it, it all works. So I think it's a really cool and clean install, because looking at it from here, you don't see any, any brake lights or anything like that. But what happens, and it looks really neat when I tested it, is the running lights, it'll be like a red glow emitting from underneath this little overhang. And then, of course, the brake lights are a brighter one, and then it has a turn signal. So I think it'll be kind of neat looking, because it'll just be like this red glow, kind of emitting down from that bottom of that lip. Is it legal? I don't know. If you want to, I don't care, to be honest with you. I think it's good, because it's gonna, make everything more visible and easier to see brake lights and everything. Worst case scenario, if some cop hassles me, I'll just unplug it. But I don't think in the city I'm in, I don't think they have time to worry about lights and stuff like that. Anyways, I thought that might be kind of cool I thought it was kind of a cool option, so I appreciate my friend giving me that. So anyways, talk to you guys a bit. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all your support, and I hope if you're doing your own projects, they're going well. And otherwise, I hope you guys are entertained or inspired, etc. And share, like, and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Thanks, guys.